Hi, welcome to my second ever Coffee with Kabara. We're going to be talking about self-care through the holidays today with Alicia Cohen, who is an LCSW-C, and we've just been having a debate about whether it's licensed clinical social worker certified or licensed certified social worker clinical. In either case, she's licensed in Maryland. She has a grad degree, and one of those C's, the clinical part, means that she's a therapist. I feel like this Coffee with Cabra came up pretty quick on me, just like the holiday season. Thanksgiving was basically yesterday. Christmas is tomorrow. My daughter was born New Year's Eve, and that's essentially the day after tomorrow. So the season has been crazy for me. A little bit about Alicia. She is originally from New Jersey. She went to Rutgers. Then she moved to the DC area and went to University of Maryland for her master's in social work. She's practiced as a psychotherapist in a range of settings, from hospitals to individual practices, personal practices. She's worked with groups and just individually with clients. Right now, she's focusing on raising her 3-year-old daughter, who's amazing. And she still stays active in the social work scene, attending seminars and continuing education conferences. And she is going to talk with me today about self-care through the holidays. So I just said, I feel like Thanksgiving happened yesterday. Luckily, it was pretty stress-free for me because I got to take all of my out-of-town guests to Alicia's house, who hosted. How did Thanksgiving go for you? Was it pretty stress-free for you or not?
It went really well. It was our first time hosting.
It was.
Thanksgiving ever, and I'm a little embarrassed to say first time cooking a turkey.
It was delicious.
Oh,
it was spatchcocked. It was wonderful.
Thank you. So I was stressful, but in the sense of I hadn't done it before. And so I think if I were to do it again, I probably wouldn't be as stressed for those reasons.
Because everything came out great. You don't
Yes.
have to worry about it.
Thank you.
You know, growing up, I always had a ton of fun around the holidays. When I was a kid, it was very stress-free. It was all about the food, the games, the family time. But now that I'm an adult, I can understand why people get stressed around the holidays, right?
Yeah.
You have to host. There's a pressure to keep your house looking not messy when there's people constantly in and out. You might have big family gatherings with someone that you have a strained relationship with. Were the holidays more stressful or more fun for you growing up?
I think I would have to say, like you, I was blissfully unaware. I was kind of just taken to people's houses and celebrating, and we'd leave, and it was lovely. And I wasn't aware of any kind of prep that it took, the work, the time, the money that it costs, or the interpersonal relationships between family and friends that I was just unaware of. So yes, they were great.
What was your favorite holiday growing up?
So my family is Jewish, and I think Passover was my favorite holiday. And it is so intensive how much work it is to do a Passover Seder, but as a child, all I remember is just a bunch of people tightly packed into a table, eating and laughing, and babies, being passed around from person to person.
Did you get to hunt for the afikomen?
Yes, and that's always.
That's the best part, I think, of Passover.
Yeah.
Well, my fun because it's like active. You get to go hunt around for a little piece of matzah hidden somewhere.
Yeah. Well, the best part I have to say is my aunt's matzo ball soup is the best part of it.
Okay. Is it just the hosting, you think, that puts people on edge around the holidays? Why do we all seem, now that we're adults, more stressed out when the holiday season approaches?
I don't think it's all that, but that is a big part of it. It's a very big part of it. I think there could be issues or concerns, like for someone who is an introvert, for example, would have a hard time during the holidays, because being around a lot of people at once for a big part of the day could just be pretty taxing.
Yeah, I feel like in general too, I'm more exhausted, and I don't know if it's that it gets dark so early or that I have more going on, but then I'm just more exhausted in general in December, and then I have a shorter fuse with everything else.
Yes. Yeah. Another example could be someone who's in like kind of a life transition may have a hard time talking with friends and family that they haven't seen in a while, to kind of give them that 2-minute wrap up of where they are at this time and be in a positive way, or feel like they have to share in a positive way, or of explaining.
Right.
And that can be hard.
So not even just dealing with a life transition yourself and trying to come up with new traditions and memories for yourself, but then constantly seeing people that you only see at the holidays and having to explain over and over and over again, oh, this is my current situation. Yeah, I get that. That would be very stressful. How are some ways that we can recognize if we're getting stressed out or depressed before it hits a boiling point?
There's different ways. For physically is a good way to tell. If you notice that you're getting headaches, you're clenching your teeth, aches and pains anywhere in your body, feeling tired, changes in your appetite or your sleep schedule, yawning, taking big deep breaths means maybe you're holding your breath, so you're anxious about it. Yeah. I think so. Physical, that's physical. Emotional would be noticing a change in your in the way you would, I guess, normally interact with people. Maybe feeling more tearful, maybe feeling out of control, more irritable, mental, maybe being forgetful, losing words, confused.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of behavioral. This is a big one. Feeling like an increase in substance use, noticing you're taking more risky behaviors. So those are big ones.
Yeah, I guess that would be like an inappropriate way that we are trying to relieve some stress, right? By like getting maybe some adrenaline from some risky behavior as like a way to off-put steam or something.
Yeah.
What are some kind of healthy ways to reduce stress?
It's really what you like to do, I think, is a good way to start. What you think is a great way to spend your time. If you like going outside, definitely schedule some time, be proactive, and even like reminding yourself with an alarm to take more outside time. Exercising, healthy diet, all the things, we know, but also giving yourself permission to take a break, or I don't know, treating yourself, getting a pedicure, which is lovely, to do. If you have the time and money for that.
I feel like that giving yourself permission is so key, because especially as women, we're just kind of trained and brought up to take care of others and be caretakers. And so it is so hard to say, I need a night off. I'm not going to make dinner tonight. I'm not going to put my kid to bed tonight. I am just going to go and get a pedicure and not think about any of you for an hour or two, right?
Yeah.
And it's hard to then not feel guilty about doing that on the one hand, but then on the other hand, I know that if I get alone time, then I'm a better mom when I'm there, because I'm not as stressed, because I'm not as irritable, I'm not as quick to react negatively, right?
Yeah, and the time that you have is more joyful or more meaningful. There's an expression where it's like, if you're in a plane and the oxygen masks come down, you put one on yourself first before you can put one on someone else.
Right.
So that's really important to think about, where it kind of makes you feel more comfortable giving yourself the priority to do those things when you know it makes you a better caregiver or whatever later.
And what if we can't do it alone? What if we are really stressed out and we just either are not finding the time to get away and do something we enjoy, or it's not enough? What is the next step?
I think one would be asking for help in, your social network, friends, family. Also, as a therapist, I would say seeking out professional help would be the next step. I think therapy can be for anyone at any time. I know it may be hard for someone to take that step, but I think really it's for anyone.
And how can someone go about finding a therapist? This is something that we deal with in family law too. A lot of individual clients are looking for a good family lawyer. It's not something people talk about all the time, right?
Right.
So it's hard to find what are the kind of qualities I should be looking for when I'm looking for a family law attorney. What are some kind of tips people can use to find a therapist?
The first thing I would say is that the best test of how successful therapy would be for someone is the relationship you have with your therapist. So if you feel you can trust that person, is really important. If you get along with that person in a way that you feel that they can talk to you honestly, is really important. So looking for a therapist that you click with would be a good thing to do. Also, shopping around for a therapist. The first therapist you go to, you are not committed to. They know that you're meeting them. They know that you're, wanting to know how they work and compare. And that is completely fine to do. It's very smart to do that. So shop around. There's websites that you can go to. I like to use Psychology Today. I have no connection to them at all, but their search is really, really helpful because you can search through issues of people who have experience working with those certain issues, specific issues. Also, that you can search through by insurance provider. So you can search by who's in network with your insurance. And I think that's really helpful. Also, you can go through your insurance company and they give you a list of providers in your network.
And do you find that most insurance companies will cover providers even if they're out of network somewhat?
Yes, some insurance companies will pay a percentage if they're out of network, up to the allowable amount. It can be confusing, but yes, submitting an invoice to them, and usually therapists can provide that to you. You may get a percentage back.
And when you say, it's important, one of the most important things about having a good therapist is having a therapeutic relationship, which is hard to gauge until you meet with the person. How many sessions would you say, do I need to go to someone for 10 sessions before I realize this is not working out?
It really depends. I would say 2 or 3, but also there's different types of therapy where 10 sessions is maybe the maximum, like the amount of therapy, the narrative therapeutic sessions are part of that type of therapy, like short-term focused therapy. So, but there are longer-term types of therapy like psychodynamic, psychoanalytic, which 10 sessions could take for you to really understand. So, but I would say 2 or 3.
Awesome. And is there anything about self-care through the holidays I should have asked you about, but I have not?
Yes, thank you. I think a big part of self-care through the holidays is actually setting boundaries. And I think that is very difficult for a lot of people. And I could do a whole show with you, a multi-part show with you about boundaries. So it's a big deal. And I think that it's a big part of our health in general, the way we interact in our work, in our social lives, and our families. So I think it's an ongoing process that we should all, be thinking about. If someone has a hard time setting boundaries as an individual, it's just hard for them, or if someone has a hard time setting boundaries with a certain person where it is difficult with that certain person, I think it's important to seek, a therapist to help you out with that, because that's important. I would have to say that I would say that boundaries are, the way I see boundaries is not a kind of a wall or a boundary kind of between one person and the other. I kind of see it as a path. So between two people, and it's with a lot of road signs. So it kind of gives you directions in how you want to be treated and how that person wants to be treated by you. So I think boundaries are really helpful.
This is something that I've been thinking about a lot personally over the past year or so, is boundaries and what is an appropriate way to set boundaries and what boundaries would make relationships more comfortable or healthy for me, and not feeling bad about telling other people those boundaries. But before my thinking about it for the past year, I didn't really know what boundary setting meant. So can you give a couple examples of what boundary setting during the holidays would look like?
Someone asks you to host, I'm just thinking about, in the context of holidays, someone asks you to host an event, maybe just saying like, well, I'm not comfortable hosting, or I don't have the time, or, saying no for various reasons, and just saying no for that is a big ask. And that's okay to say no to that. I mean, and I always try to say, think about it in reverse. If you ask usually our boundaries are much more healthy to our friends and family than we view them to ourselves. So if you asked a friend, would you feel comfortable asking them that ask? It's a big ask.
Someone that I know recently was talking about gift giving and how it is so financially burdensome in their family because they have, I'm going to pull it out of thin air, I don't remember, something like 7 to 9 nieces and nephews. Okay, does every single niece and nephew get an individual gift, or can we do kind of like name pulling for the cousins and the nieces and nephews so that you only have to get one gift or 2 gifts? And they were really working on trying to set that boundary in their family, because instead of feeling happy on Christmas when they're exchanging all those gifts, they feel a financial stress and burden and strain. And then when the kids open their gift and don't necessarily like it or want to go play with one of the other, 5 gifts that they got, then they feel like, I really worked hard, I felt stressed out, and you just threw it aside. Yeah. So it really isn't a positive experience for them. And you know what? As soon as they kind of broach that topic with their family, and this has happened in my personal life too, most of the time with boundaries, everyone was happy to do that. Everyone was happy to say, yeah, I don't need to buy 7 or 9 individual gifts either. Let's draw names and we'll each get 1 or 2 kids.
That's my point. Like, people are willing to adapt and, work with people. And I think that's everyone's really happy. Not everyone, but people are usually happy to do that. One thing I have to say about, presents and things is that, and I'm learning this with my daughter, is that toys, the hype and the excitement of toys lasts minutes. The whole Christmas morning itself, the holiday morning itself is a big, really good feeling. And I think it's because of the people you're around and the decorations and everything. So maybe a suggestion could be, like, instead of doing a present exchange, maybe doing a play date or and kind of going out in an event together. Or if you guys live far away, maybe doing a video chat. Or just spending time with each other is kind of what, a no-cost gift, your presence. Also, I want to say that about the boundaries is that a person who fights back on boundaries, on healthy boundaries, is usually the person who needs them the most. So think about it that way. When feeling kind of, when it's difficult to set boundaries on a person who's pushing back, is that, are you setting a healthy boundary? If a friend told you this, would you be like, sure? And this person's fighting back is like, is that a sign that you should give up your boundary, I would argue no.
Right. So I think it's Dan Savage who says this, not that I'm going to quote or refer to him a lot, okay? But I think he talks about, for him, setting boundaries with his family members can sometimes mean, look, either we're going to have a healthy relationship, and that means that you can see me and my kid a couple times a year, or if you insist on it being unhealthy and not respecting my boundaries, we're just not going to have a relationship, and you aren't going to see my kid, right? Like, and that is, I think, something that people who have trouble with boundaries, right, need to understand, that it's not, I'm not setting this boundary to push you away. I'm setting this boundary so that we can see each other more often in a positive, healthy, fun way. Right. Yeah. Well, awesome. What are some resources that you would recommend for people watching who want to read more about self-care through the holidays?
So I sent you a bunch of links about different types of self-care. Self-care in general is kind of a practice, a continuous practice. It's not just one thing, every so often. You work at it. So continue it throughout the year, and I think that things will be less stressful as you continually do it. Like I said, Psychology Today is a great way to find a therapist. There's lots and lots of books about self-care, workbooks even, to kind of get you thinking about how, or give you ideas of what your type of self-care would be, because it's very individualized.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thank you. So this has been an overview of self-care through the holidays with Alicia Cohen, LCSW-C in Maryland. Yes. And my next Coffee with Kabara is going to be January 16th, so next year at 10:30 a.m. And I'll be speaking with Michael Kenyon, who is a branch manager and senior loan officer with Union Home Mortgage out in Loudoun County. And he's going to be talking to me about qualifying for a mortgage while you're going through a divorce or immediately after divorce, some special considerations there on qualifying for a loan. Again, I'm Kabara Praskovich. I'm counsel at Maddox and Chirac, and you can connect with me here on Facebook, facebook.com/ATTY Kabara, Kabara. I'm on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/NIN/Kabara. And you can, of course, just go to the firm website, Maddox and Chirac, MADDOX and GEROCK.com. Thank you for watching. Thank you for coming to have coffee with me. And I'll see the rest of you January 16th at 10:30. Bye.